Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you too.
Or if you're watching this next weekend, happy next weekend. Depends how you come across Daily Dose. Today we're back with the book The Gift. Dr. Edith Eger's second book, talking about the always festive grief. I thought you'd giggle at that. We gotta plan our jokes better. All right. Talking about grief, not festive. But I think this is an interesting section. This book is great. The first book, my aunt sent me the choice. Loved that. This is a really lovely little additional book to it. So, this is from chapter 6, What Didn't Happen? The Prison of Unresolved Grief. It's a universal experience for life not to turn out as we want or expect. Most of us suffer because we have something we don't want, or we want something we don't have. All therapy is grief work, a process of confronting a life where you expect one thing and get another, a life that brings you the unexpected and unanticipated. Grief is often not about what happened, it's about what didn't happen. What do you want to say to that, Dr. Mary? You have some cotton on your chin.
Yes,
That's your neck.
That wasn't the first thing that crossed my mind. It's actually, well, it's very true. I mean, it's true for, it's probably true for everybody.
Yes.
There are things that we've done, that everyone's done, that they will regret doing. Things that they haven't done too,
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the challenges of your life, they're probably one of those two things. They're things that you did that you wish you hadn't, things that you didn't do that you wish you had, or things that you have that you wish you didn't, or things that you don't have that you wish that you did. Think about that boiled down. We think of our lives as being so complex and multifaceted and dynamic, and in actuality, what we struggle with is having what we don't want or not having what we do want. That's kind of it.
Yeah.
And for me, that's certainly true. The two great struggles, the two great periods of grief of my life are not being a movie star, and when you were drinking, having a marriage I didn't want. That's kind of remarkable. So basic, which actually I find some comfort in.
Yeah, I mean, you asked me yesterday if I could do anything different from this time last year. What would you do? And I wouldn't, because actually, I hate to say this, but this from my point of view, this last year has been spectacular.
In our little world.
In our little world, it's been awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I had one thing, but I can't remember what it was. It was a very minor thing.
Yeah.
So I guess the question for you is, what are you experiencing grief over? And is it something you have that you wish you didn't? Is it something you don't have that you wish you did? So, think about the major things in life, the loss of a spouse or a child or someone you're incredibly close to. That's missing something that you don't have. Think about, not getting a job. Think about not getting into the college you wanted to go to. Think about losing a pregnancy. All of those things which feel so massive and are. I'm not saying how we feel about this is trivial and basic. I'm just saying that if you really boil it down, A, there's comfort in how simple it is, and B, there is no person on the planet who then does not live in the same experience or the same emotional feelings as you, because we all have experienced that and in many cases experienced it multiple ways and in multiple times. I don't really know that there's anything else to say about it. I guess I do have a question for you. Do you have grief over your years as a drinker?
Yes.
What is that grief?
It's there's two sides to it, if that's the right phrase to use. I feel guilty and grief about what I let happen to myself.
Okay.
But that's sometimes overshadowed by the grief of how that spilled out to you.
Interesting. So,
I mean, I've tried to make amends for everything I've done, and the vast majority of people that are still in my life have accepted it.
well, the people who aren't jackasses have, yes.
Some people.
You know who you are.
Some people find it hard.
You're also not watching Daily Dose, so I can freely say
anyway, some people find it harder, and I feel guilt about the position they're in, not being able.
You should let that go.
Well,
that's on
why
them,
you
not
asked
you.
this
I
question.
know, but I'm just saying, if you do see this and wonder if it's you, yes, it is, and get over it.
Brilliant. This is why Dana is not a psychologist, right there.
Or a mediator.
We're going to send you to Dana, Dr. Delval. No, I'm fine. I'll let it go. Good God.
Tough love. Except in this particular instance, there's no love for those people.
What?
It's just tough.
No, that's the wrong.
Back to you.
That's
Back
the wrong
to you.
attitude to have.
You
Anyway,
and I can agree to disagree
so I
on
have
this.
guilt about the position they're in because I put them in it. That is fleeting, but it's still there.
Okay, that's kind of you. That's kind of you. It's interesting because obviously you and I were in different spots going through that. I have grief over our lost years, certainly, and I have grief over how I felt about you in those years, and even though you and I really disagree on this, I have grief over my contribution to maybe not. Well, I don't know. I don't know where my contribution moves into your addiction, but there's no question that I played a role in that. I didn't force alcohol down your throat, but I have grief over decisions that I made, ways that I was unkind to you. Here's a perfect example. If I were a normal human being, which I am decidedly not, whatever normal is. Also, I don't care about that because that's not particularly interesting to me.
That's a whole
but
topic of
different
conversation
topic.
in its own.
If I were a normal person, when Dr. Mary asked me to marry him, I don't know what. How long had we been together? Do you suppose 2 months? It was still fall, so maybe
like a year.
It certainly was not.
Oh,
We'd not been together all that long.
Fast move.
Dr. Mary's in love with love. Let's just make that very clear right now. Anyway, if I'd been a normal person, I knew very quickly that I was going to be with him. When he asked me to marry him, I would have said yes and meant it. Instead, I made him wait 6.5 years, and in that entire time, I told him and everyone else in my life, I don't believe in marriage. Marriage is sort of stupid, and I will never get married. Okay, if you're someone, Exhibit A, who wants to be married, and you're with someone, Exhibit B, who not only doesn't want to be married, but tells everyone how stupid it is, then that's gotta be difficult to live with.
That's right.
He says that because he doesn't believe that I played a role in it. But that is a totally legitimate thing to cause grief in your life. You thought your life was going to go one way. You thought you would get married. You thought you would biologically have children. None of that happened for you. Well, the marriage did, but not for a long time. So that's just one example. I'm not sorry for myself that I made those decisions, but I am sorry for you. And I do think it played a role in some of that for you. I'm not saying I made you an alcoholic. First of all, that gives me way too much importance.
Oh, you didn't.
And second of all, there were lots of factors. But I have grief about that. I also have grief over the fact that I allowed my child to live in that environment. Now, as I've been very clear, it was never physically abusive. I don't believe, and Quinn would have to answer this, but I don't believe that Quinn could say he ever suffered any verbal abuse from you, any, there was, emotional abuse is too strong a word. There was emotional neglect, I would say. You were neglectful in those years because alcohol was where your focus was. So I have some grief over that because I think that how could that not have affected Quinn? He lived in the house.
Yeah, I obviously do too, but you know, he and I seem to be in a good place.
Yes, absolutely. And you and I are in a good place.
Yeah.
And you and all the other people who did the work they needed to do are in a good place. And the people who didn't do that can suck it.
Dana, everyone does things differently.
Yes, they do. And some people do it wrong. So there's that. I'm feeling feisty and spicy about some of those people because they're kind of on the
This is probably some
on the patrol
weird
again.
therapy for you to
It's
just
a little
say
bit.
this out loud, isn't it?
Again, I know they're not watching.
That's one way to deal with your grief, ladies and gentlemen, is to just blurt it out. It weirdly does actually, you know, it does work to voice.
Oh my gosh, this morning?
Getting your inner voice out is actually a good technique to get rid of some of your stress.
This morning, I visualized an entire conversation with this particular group of people where I said exactly what I want to say, which, just as an FYI, I will do someday in my life because I have no fear of them, nor do I care about them. And it was awesome.
See what I mean? It's probably a valid psychological technique there.
Rip my face off
So,
and go. Well, you know what I'd like to say, Dr. Mary?
Oh dear.
You know what made a huge difference in our healing? When I did that to you. For years.
That's very true. But
For years, I had held in everything that I was feeling grief about. And when I finally unleashed it, I only had to do it once. Once.
Again, I think we should. I think we're duty bound to point out that neither of us are legally trained therapists, and you should seek real medical advice.
I am a legal human being, however, and am entitled to these feelings. That's my disclaimer. So, anyway, time please. Let me read this to you one more time because we perhaps got a little derailed.
I don't think we have actually. It was a. We orbited oddly, but we got there.
What didn't happen, the prison of unresolved grief. From the gift, 12 lessons to save your life. It is a universal experience for life not to turn out as we want or expect. Most of us suffer because we have something we don't want, or we want something we don't have. All therapy is grief work. A process of confronting a life where you expect one thing and get another. A life that brings you the unexpected and unanticipated. Grief is often not about what happened. It's about what didn't happen. Amazing. Amazing. So simple. Strip down what you are struggling with. And you probably will realize it's about having something you don't want. It's about not having something you do want. Or it's about something going the way you didn't expect it to go. As soon as you can strip it down to that basic level, I think, because it has worked for me, it seems to have worked for you.
Yeah.
So from our vast test sample of 2,
Oh yeah, can't go wrong with that.
we should get published. I think we can say that if you can strip it down to its most basic level, you too will discover that you can then begin to build yourself back up.
That is actually true as well, I guess.
And she is highly qualified, and that's what she's saying. So it's not like I'm making this up. I'm just adapting Dr. Eager's point, which is really beautiful and should give us all some hope that we can get to the root of where our hang-ups are and move on. Interestingly, you and I moved on. We got to that basic level. Doesn't mean it's all forgotten, but it is all forgiven. Right?
Yeah, and that's the hardest part, I think.
Yeah. So
Forget and forgive are two very different things.
you don't have to forget it. You have to forgive it, and you have to forgive yourself. Have a great day. Tomorrow I'll be a little dialed back, I promise. No, I will.
And why would we want to any other way?
You have no idea what I'd like to say.
I certainly
No
wouldn't.
idea. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
See
Bye.
you tomorrow. Bye.